everyone and welcome back. Hi, if you are new here, I have not published in ages. I'm really sorry about that. I've been doing loads of work in uni right now and I am trying to prioritize that. So today's video is going to be on the heartbreaking case of Margaret Fleming. I won't spoil the video for you or anything, but when I heard about this case, I was just like astonished, like how could this happened to someone so vulnerable. It is truly heartbreaking, but I will let you get on to the video. Viewer discretion is advised as well, and I do not mean any offense. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've worked really hard on it.
Who was Margaret Fleming? She was an only child who was brought up in the town of Port, Glasgow, Inverclyde, and she faced challenges from an early age. She went to Slaymoor Primary School. Margaret struggled with reading and writing. She continued to require additional support as a pupil at the Port Glasgow High. In January 1993, her parents divorced after 20 years of marriage. When she was 12, she left the family home to move in with her father and grandparents. It was heard that Margaret had a very bad temper and was described by her mother as difficult to handle. However, in school, she was quite a quiet figure and required constant encouragement. In a 1995 school report, many teachers said the same thing about Margaret and how her learning difficulties were quite severe. One teacher said she struggled to put pen to paper. She read around the level of an 8-year-old. Another teacher said she works fairly well to her ability but needs written instructions set out simply and gone over verbally. If you left Margaret on her own, she would do very little. You had to prod her to do her work. Her marks were all the way at the very bottom end of the school. Everyone knew that Margaret was quite isolated and she was quite shy. Also, her and her dad were extremely close. He was very protective over her. Sadly, he was taken into hospital, but he never told her why he was being taken into hospital. Sadly, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. His ex-wife, Margaret, her last name is Cruikshanks, but I don't really know how to pronounce that, so I'll just call her Margaret as well. So his ex-wife Margaret took Margaret to the Inverclyde Council's social work office. The meeting was arranged to discuss her behavioural problems, which included arguing with her grandparents. The referral said Margaret does not know why her father is in hospital, and she is afraid that it is something serious. It is also noted that the child always felt safe and comfortable with her father, as she felt quite rejected by her mother. Sadly, 5 days after the meeting, Mr. Fleming lost his battle with cancer. His death not only devastated Margaret, but is one of the reasons for her eventual move from Port Glasgow to Inverkip, 10 miles along the Clyde coast. Who is going to take care of Margaret Fleming? Mr. Fleming thought his parents were too old to take care of his daughter. He had earlier told his fiancée, Jean McSherry, that if anything happened to him, Eddie Cairney and Avril Jones would look after Margaret. So a month after the father's passing, Margaret stayed at her mother's house frequently, every fortnight. Also during this time, Margaret had enrolled on a Skills for Life course at James Watt College in Greenwich. She appeared to be doing totally fine and her bad temper had really calmed down. As the bad temper created quite a tense and strain on the mother and daughter's relationship, it did cause problems. So she was staying with Cairney and Jones as well. Eddie and Avril live on this beautiful location in Seacroft, which is in Inverkip. Anyway, on 26th of November 1997, the mother and daughter's ties were severed after a chilling confrontation. Miss Cruikshanks, or the mother Margaret, told the jury she was attacked by Cairney after travelling to Inverkip to tell him she wanted her daughter to come home. However, when she got there, she said that Margaret wanted to stay. But she got a bad vibe and she thought this just wasn't right. So she later called the police, who went to check on Margaret. That was the last time that she visited. One thing I want to point out in this case is the house that they were living at Seacroft. It was such a beautiful location, but the house was disgusting. It was absolutely in ruins, and it was just so dirty and unsafe to be living in. Now that the mom is not in the photo, Cairney and Jones took total control of Margaret Fleming. Margaret Fleming was manipulated, abused, and tortured by Cairney and Jones. There was many witnesses who said they would find her with her arms taped up and covered in cardboard. Cairney said this was to prevent her from self-harming. However, everyone says that she would just not do that. That was not her at all. And the only reason why she would, or if she would, was because of the amount of stress that she was put under. They would also constantly lock her up in her bedroom and invite the kids round to play. They knew that would really upset Margaret because all she ever wanted to do was play with these kids, but she was never allowed. She was not allowed to sit at the table when people were invited round for dinner. She was also subjected to daily punishment, which included constantly being tied up. She got her hair cut short, and she was deprived of food. The last ever confirmed sighting of Margaret was at Richard Jones's new house in Inverkip on December 17th, 1999. Margaret had been living with the couple for about 2 years before she disappeared. It was just around Christmas in 1999. 19-year-old Margaret had seemingly disappeared, yet no one had reported her missing. Avril Jones's mother asked where she was, what happened to her. The last ever photo taken of Margaret was in 1999. Avril Jones's mother spoke to her daughter on the phone on January 5th, 2000. She said that Margaret had left with a traveller, and she wasn't too sure what happened, but it was up to her. As months turned into years, memories faded, and not one person saw fit to report that Margaret Fleming had just never came home. She had just disappeared, just vanished. Many people thought she wasn't even a real person, that she just never existed. And it was only until 28th of October 2016 Margaret Fleming was reported missing by her carers. Margaret Fleming would have been 36. Avril Jones and Eddie Cairney did not report her missing because they were worried. They reported her missing because they were getting found out about. In 2016, Margaret's Disability Living Allowance, DLA, was replaced by a Personal Independence Payment, PIP, and she was required to attend an assessment. In 2016, there was a date set for Margaret Fleming to attend her assessment. However, she didn't turn up. This raised suspicions with authorities when they couldn't even contact Miss Fleming. After the police were called, it was discovered that Fleming had seemingly vanished from the village of Inverkip. When the police asked neighbours, family, and friends, they all told them that she hadn't been seen for nearly 20 years and they just thought she was getting on with life. Cairney said that she ran off when the police arrived at the house in 2016. He said, "I turned around to get Margaret and she was gone, out the door." However, the police say that there was police at the back and front and she could have not gotten out the door without being seen. Then he told police that she ran away with a traveller and then went on to become a gang master who travelled to Europe and a drug dealer.
To London. To London.
And where has she been for the past year?
She's been in Poland, obviously London. I've got no idea how many other places she's been or go to because she's doing a gangmaster. Do you know what that is? She has become, in spite of her difficulties, she has become a person who recruits and hires out agricultural workers.
So she has become a gangmaster, or she has become a slave to a gangmaster?
No, she is a gangmaster.
She is.
Cairney and Jones swiped all of Margaret's belongings in the house. There was not even a trace of her. The only 3 things left were letters said to be from Margaret. However, there was a number of difficult words in the letters that were spelt correctly. However, Margaret's old teachers said this just couldn't have been possible, as Margaret could have only written around 100 words, with short sentences. Coincidentally, the couple were also in London whilst these letters were produced. One was said to be from Cairney, which was produced on 9th of January 2000, and the other 2 were from Regent's Palace Hotel in Piccadilly Circus, were posted to the couple's house. Another thing I want to put out there is when they were asked in the BBC interview is, what would you say if she was watching this right now? They actually struggled to answer this. When they did, it just made no sense.
If she was watching this right now, what would you say to her?
If she's involved in this other business, then I wouldn't want to know her. If that's what she's up to.
The business which you mean by being a gangmaster?
No, drugs.
Right, so she's involved, right, okay.
We wouldn't want to know her for that.
Another interview that I'm going to show you is the police interview. Cairney smirked when he was asked if he murdered Margaret, and he also answered no comment 37 times.
I'll be the judge of whether it's out of context or not.
You said no.
No comment.
We're back to no comment. Okay. So you don't want to tell me how Avril...
No comment.
I hadn't finished the question there,
I don't care what you say to me. No comment.
Did you murder Margaret Fleming?
No comment.
I don't know if it's a nervous thing, but again, such a crucial question and you're smirking.
How is that a crucial question?
There was almost 300 bone fragments discovered in the garden. However, 298 of the fragments were too small to identify as anything other than bone. This was under a 5 by 4 meter area of blackened soil. Under the blackened soil was a pile of rubble. People say that the rubble could have been created to burn things. However, they were unable to obtain any DNA. A former firefighter later told the court he smelt burning flesh coming from a bonfire at the home of Mr. Cairney and Mrs. Jones in 2008. The blaze lasted for days. Nielsen told the jury that as they drove by the house, he turned to his wife and said, "I wonder who's cremating who," and then just brushed it off and thought it was probably just a deer. The ex-fireman said he had smelt burning flesh before, while attending fatal fires. He said it's distinctive and it's not something you forget easily. However, as he spoke to detectives in May 2017, he didn't mention anything about the burning human tissue. However, he said that he thought it was animal flesh. Therefore, it could not be counted as evidence. So on October 26, 2017, police investigating Margaret Fleming's disappearance arrest Edward Cairney and Avril Jones. On October 27, 2017, the pair appear at Greenock Sheriff Court and are charged with murder, abduction and assault, fraud, and an attempt to defeat the ends of justice. They make no plea and are remanded in custody. On May 28, 2018, Cairney and Jones appear at the High Court in Livingston. They are charged with abducting and murdering Miss Fleming and claiming £182,000 in benefits by pretending that she was still alive. For some reason, in October 18, 2018, the trial is abandoned and nobody knows why. On April 25, 2019, Cairney and Jones go back on trial at the High Court in Glasgow. They are accused of assaulting and murdering Miss Fleming and fraud because they claimed the benefits. Then, June 14, 2019, they were both accused and convicted by murder on the majority verdict. Even though Margaret Fleming's body has never been found, the couple have been sentenced to life imprisonment, which is mandatory for murder. They are both ordered to spend 14 years behind bars before they are able to apply for parole. This was what was said in court if you are wondering how they were charged with murder without the body. If you're wondering if there was anything that you can watch for more information on the case, definitely give this a watch.
So that is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed, and again, I did not mean any offense to any family members or anyone involved or knows this case personally. Anyway, make sure you follow me on my social media and watch my previous videos and subscribe so you don't miss a video. Thanks.